Hello, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I'm Jen Taylor.
Oh, and I'm Naturalist Nathan.
And I'm Faithless Forrest.
What we want you to know is that if you don't believe in God, you're not alone. Right here in East Tennessee, you can find free-thinking atheists and agnostics. This is a show for them and for people committed to a life rooted in science and unfettered by supernatural beliefs.
Right. Today, we will compare and contrast loss of faith stories.
But before we begin, we want to tell viewers about the sponsors, the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee.
The Atheist Society of Knoxville frequently has a fun meetup at a bar or eatery. The next meetup is Tuesdays at 5:30 p.m. at a new location, Black Horse Pub and Brewery, located at 4429 Kingston Pike in Knoxville in the Western Plaza Shopping Center. For more details, go to knoxvilleatheist.org. When you get to the meetup, look for a silver-jacketed copy of The God Delusion standing upright on the table. And as Matt Dillahunty at Atheist Experience says, everyone is welcome to our happy hour for food, drink, and conversation. But if you plan to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't.
So, the Rationalists of East Tennessee have several regular monthly meetings. See our website, rationalists.org, for details. It's almost behind his head. So The first and third Sunday mornings of the month are usually lectures with lively round table discussions. The second Sunday we hold Skeptics Book Club, and the fourth Sunday we are mixing it up sometimes with a potluck get-together in a member's home, which we call a reflections meeting.
Later in the show, we will give you our websites to visit for additional details, including times and locations. So, we have in the news next. Nathan, you brought Naturalist Nathan. You brought us something for newsworthy?
Well, thanks, Faithless Forrest. There are a few news articles about putting "In God We Trust" on things, or posting it in schools, or trying to take it off of money. So I brought an article about trying to take it off of money. A guy named Kenneth Mayle, M-A-Y-L-E, in May 2017 tried to file a federal lawsuit to have "In God We Trust" removed from money.
Which one?
All the money.
Oh, which God?
See, he doesn't like any of them. And
okay.
Didn't want to be forced to partake in the ritual of having money that says God on it.
Uh-huh. And so is he an atheist like us?
Oh, he actually says he's a Satanist.
A Satanist. Does he say what flavor of Satanist he is? I think there's more than one flavor.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's the what
Satanic Temple?
Well,
perhaps?
There is the Satanic Temple, and I was wondering, is he affiliated with them, or does the article say?
It says he's a non-theistic Satanism, right?
All right.
So that's the one that is a little bit like Flying Spaghetti Monster.
Yes. So how did this turn out?
Well,
are they going to come and take all of our money and scratch God off of it?
The judge tossed it out, and they appealed, and then the Seventh Circuit Court of U.S. Appeals recently also confirmed the lower court's decision. So they decided that a reasonable observer would not perceive the motto on currency as a religious endorsement.
So that's pretty amazing that somehow God is not a religious thing, and to say "we trust" is not an endorsement. That's pretty amazing. So does it does it say, if he has any further plans to act on this, or is this kind of the end of it, or any other remarkable things about this case?
Well, I think he's going to keep trying. They offered suggestions like, how about you use a credit card or a debit card? But he said that for religious reasons...
Who was they? Who was they?
Oh, who's they? Various commenters. I don't have the details.
Because, that's the funny thing is you often hear when non-believers like us complain about the people with the imaginary friend stamping their belief all over the government's property and all over the national currency that we're to use to do commerce, they'll say so smugly, like, well, then just don't use money, as if we've got an alternative. We have the right to have commerce with our fellow citizens, and our commerce should not be burdened with their imaginary friend. And we shouldn't pull punches about that. We should say, your imaginary friend is getting a free ride off of the taxpayer on the taxpayer dollar, and we've every right to be incensed about this.
Well, the churches want to probably know how to identify the real money because it has God on it when it's put into the collection plates.
Is that it? Otherwise they wouldn't know.
I don't know.
Did they wash it in holy water?
I don't know.
He said he feels like he is forced into a submissive ritual when he has to use this money.
That's an interesting way to phrase it, a submissive ritual, because you've got no choice, and especially when you're conducting transactions with the government and stuff like that. It's not like you've got, there's no competition. When you're dealing with the government, it's a monopoly, very, very coercive.
Yeah, you really don't have a choice as a citizen who doesn't want to have money with the word God on it.
Yeah.
Of course, a lot of people don't realize that it didn't always say, "In God we trust."
It didn't. Tell us more, naturalist Nathan.
Oh, well, they started adding it around
1954.
1954, yeah, 1955. But
that would go on.
There were lawsuits about it then, and they didn't officially start requiring it until 1957.
Okay.
So that would be, of course, the printed money or the currency.
Yes.
Coins have had it off and on. The first coin to get it was, I believe, a 2-cent piece, and that happened in, I believe, something like 1862 or 1863. It was during the Civil War, and both sides were trying to appeal to, or both sides were infested with religious folks that sort of said, well, if we don't appeal to God, we're going to lose this war. Mm-hmm. And so the Secretary of the Treasury under Abraham Lincoln, sort of carried the day, and they put it on, as I say, it's a 2-cent piece. I carry in my wallet, I think I still have it, an Indian head penny. An Indian head penny was still God-free, and they were made God-free up until 1909. 1909, the penny design switched to the Lincoln cent, similar to what we know or have today. And all of the Lincoln pennies have "In God We Trust" on them. But during 1909, both kinds of pennies were made, and so there were Indian head pennies without and Lincoln pennies that were infested by the imaginary friend in the sky. So there's a longer history there on the coinage. I think the last coin to get God added to it happened in the 1930s or so, but although I've read it, I don't trust my memory on the specifics of it. Okay. So that's the story, and unfortunately, apparently, they don't trust God enough to do right by them. They think they've got to put him on the currency to remind God to do the right thing. It's the only conclusion I come to.
Yeah. but no one's heard from him in thousands of years. I'm not sure.
Omniscient, all-powerful, omnipresent deities. Got to be in your pocket somehow. Might as well be printed on the money, right?
All righty.
I don't know.
Well, we'll probably have more to say on this in the future. Stay tuned, viewers. So, today we are come together to compare and contrast loss of faith stories. I'm a lifelong non-believer, but and I've learned that actually places me as a minority within the minority community that we are. Most of the members of the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee come from some kind of a faith background. So let's talk more detail about that. Jen, you want to go first?
Sure. My background, my dad is Southern Baptist and mom's Jehovah's Witness. And I had to attend both churches. So that was quite an interesting experience. But
so how did that work? You alternate weeks or go for a month at one, month at another?
Well, my parents, as I got older, they were back and forth with one another. So weekends with dad, we went with dad. Weekends with mom, we went with mom. And then some weeks there was some overlap because the JWs wanted to go to church on Thursdays and Sundays. And Southern Baptists, they go on Sundays, but they also had like choir rehearsal and devotional and all these other services. And, with mom, it was usually a twice a week thing, sometimes 3 times. And then with dad, it was like Sunday was like from morning to like 8 o'clock in the morning, 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night. So there was first service, second service, third service,
That's horribly grueling sounding.
It was interesting.
So would there have been a nice potluck lunch in between?
They had food in the church basement, and the dinners were always good. Or we'd take a break and go visit a relative and have a meal there. And the major difference between the churches is what the Kingdom Halls for Jehovah's Witnesses were built like bread boxes. So there were absolutely no windows, nothing on the walls. And I remember asking my mother, and I asked other people, I was like, why don't we have windows, to these Kingdom Halls? And they said, hey, when Armageddon comes, the end of the world, all the Jehovah's Witnesses are supposed to run to their nearest Kingdom Hall and take shelter there in a regular building. I mean, it's not like they were built like fallout shelters or anything.
No windows.
We have a call. Nathan, why don't you push the on button and ask the caller?
Hello, caller. What should we call you?
Can we get a name or a nickname?
Central Illinois.
Hello, Charles from Central Illinois. Do you have a question or comment for us or care to share your loss of faith story?
Well, I have a comment. David Barton, author of what is considered the worst history book on the United States on record, has come out and flat out said that the entire U.S. law system is based entirely on what's in the Bible.
All right, and say again for the benefit of me, I didn't. Who's the author of this history book, the worst history book ever?
David Barton.
So is that Barton, B-A-R-T-O-N?
You got it. So one of the questions somebody asked was, so where in the United States of America do we get to stone women to death for not being virgins on their wedding night?
Well, there are probably some state legislators that are about to be working on that, or
Men like to get their rocks off? I don't know.
There's other
Pretty
backwards
sure
things.
that's un-American, right? We
Yeah.
don't really stone people here, or not anymore.
Well, not that you could see.
Or burn people at the stake. I guess we did do that at one point.
Yeah, lynching.
So,
Well, we did that in what was then the colony of Maryland,
oh,
because
correct.
it was a predominantly Catholic
Wow.
place. But in other places, we follow the old English practice of hanging them.
Yeah, well, and that's why when our founders were working on the Constitution, they wanted, they within the Constitution as originally written, they removed all religious tests to hold office. They wanted to create the opportunity for everyone. And although I've not actually read any of the minutes to the Constitutional Convention, I've heard it said that they explicitly discussed the consequences or the implication of that phrase in the Constitution, that there'll be no religious test, and that one of the members said, well, but that means that Jews or Muslims will be able to hold office, to which the other members, delegates said, yeah, that's right, as they should be allowed to if they can get themselves elected. The last part I added. So at the Constitutional Convention, that was discussed, and in other words, they understood they were removing the opportunity to claim that this was a Christian nation, or that you had to be Christian to be in the government, or know how to, govern well, that kind of thing.
Then there's the Treaty of Tripoli, which explicitly states that the Muslims have no fear of the Republic of the United States, was not founded as a Christian nation.
Yeah,
and it was passed unanimously through both the Congress and the Senate, published in every major newspaper in the Republic at that time, without any outrage, rioting, or anything like that. And that was during Madison's term.
Well, the treaty was negotiated during George Washington's tenure by the first Secretary of State, John Jay, I believe, and it was adopted during
Madison's.
It's the second president, Adams. Adams,
yes.
Yeah.
And Madison was, I think, the vice president or the Secretary of State or something like that.
I think Madison was in Congress. Well, he was certainly in Congress initially, because James Madison was in the first Congress, and he chaired the committee that wrote the Bill of Rights, the first amendments to the Constitution. So, there's a strong history of freethinkers right there at the creation of our national government. All right?
Now, as for my deconversion from a theistic worldview to a non-theistic, atheist worldview, I guess the straw that broke the camel's back happened in 1969 when Apollo 11 landed on the moon. According to every religion I've ever encountered, that's supposed to be impossible. So,
So you're sort of saying the exciting scientific advances that Apollo represents made you think that the religion had nothing compelling to offer by comparison?
Well, it wasn't accurate. It was fractionally wrong in so many ways.
I guess so. The Bible doesn't say, by the way, the moon is a big round.
It's just
another world.
Light.
World, yeah, that you could walk on.
Yeah, it calls it a light.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mention anything about the planets. It doesn't talk anything about like how to create electricity. It doesn't have any information on how to control diseases properly. It's what's called fractionally wrong. It doesn't matter how close you look at it, you wind up looking at something that isn't accurate. Because
Right.
It's like a fractional diagram.
Almost like the authors did not really know anything about how reality is constructed, even though they say this is written by the constructor of reality, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jesus flat out says, I and my Father are one. And yet, where in the world can you submerge plant life, land plant life, for at least, 8 months or so, completely underwater, and they not go, die out? And yet when the Noah business about sending the dove out and coming back with an olive branch or twig or whatever, how did that plant survive under all that water all that time?
Who knows? And who cleaned up the carcasses? And how did the animals get back to where they lived?
Yeah, and then where did all the water go afterwards?
Just fell off the edge of the earth. I guess that's what flat earthers think, I guess.
That must explain it. The flat earthers are right. It went off the edge.
It went off the edge.
There's a theory that it froze into a dam, so that's why you can't find the edge.
Oh, okay.
But they argue about that, so flat earthers don't all agree.
And the
which is interesting.
kangaroos hop back to Australia.
Penguins waddled back.
And then there's the unending amount of hypocrisy we keep getting from all these different well-known televangelists coming out and proclaiming how this is a sign of the end times, and come back, starting back in the 30s when the televangelists began to get a hold of television. The very first television came out in the late 1930s, but was put on hold because of World War II. But when after that, they basically took over a lot of the Sunday television and imposed what can and cannot be seen on television through the I think it was the Hayes Act. So censorship and distorted views of how the world works and so forth doesn't seem to be having. God doesn't seem to have any problems with any of it. There'd be a lot of dead people from lightning bolts.
Yeah. All righty. Well, we got some more stories here as well. Did you have anything further you wanted to say about loss of faith, or have you given us the summary?
I've given you the summary.
All righty. Well,
I'll let you get on with it.
thanks for calling, Charles. Hope you're having nice weather up there in central Illinois, and the crops are growing. The corn,
like mad.
Wow.
the corn's
wonderful.
been put in.
Yep, and it's already knee-high in places.
All righty.
All right.
You think it's the extra carbon?
It might be. Goodbye then.
Yep.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks.
All righty. So we're talking about Jen's history, and you'd mentioned Jehovah's Witnesses, and Charles mentioned end times, and that made me think to ask the question, what did they teach you, if any, about Jehovah's Witnesses and ideas of the end times?
Well, they believed that 144,000 people were going to heaven, and that the rest of the people who are good will be able to live in a paradise on earth. So, it was kind of strange because they had like once a year they did like a sort of like a communion, and only the people who believed that they were one of the 144,000 were able to take the communion.
Aha, so this was sort of testing people to see how vain and self-centered they were?
Yeah, basically.
That's really kind of putting things
Well, I
on
never
the
drank
spot.
the wine or the Kool-Aid. In fact, just thinking about Charles's story, how I became skeptical was when I was 6 years old, and I happened to be learning about the flood story, and that's what really sparked my skepticism, because we had a sister from the Kingdom Hall that came to our home, and we had this book called My Book of Bible Stories, and in it had graphic pictures of the flood and many other scenes from the Bible, and in particular, the flood, they actually showed in graphic detail people drowning and crying and animals and, a woman holding a baby. It was really disturbing. And I was like...
So they're traumatizing children.
Yeah, it's a book geared towards children that's meant to traumatize us and shock us into belief or scare us into belief. And I was asking the sister, hey, well, what happened to the dinosaurs? And she said, well, the dinosaurs were created to flatten the earth in order for people to walk upon it, sort of like bubble wrap or something.
Oh no!
Pop
Gotta
the bubbles.
Pop.
Yeah.
That's creative.
And then once that was done, God didn't need the dinosaurs anymore. So my question to her was, what's going to happen when God is done with us? So from an early age, I felt like this God existed. However, he felt that that we were disposable. And as I got older, even though I believed in some form of God or a being of some sort, I start thinking in terms of like, wow, this is a God that loves to see us suffer. He doesn't help anybody. He doesn't answer anyone's prayers. He's entertained by our suffering. And I felt like, what is this? This is love? This is like healthy faith and healthy love? This sounds like an entity that must be hunted down and destroyed, not loved. So, that's where it began, as far as my my disbelief. And as I got older, it just, I researched different churches. I've been to a number of different ones. And
name a few.
I've been to the Hebrew Israelites. I did some classes with them. I've been to Holiness Church. I've been to Pentecostal. I've attended a couple of Catholic services. Mennonite, which is like a spinoff from the Amish folks. I've been to a Quaker church. And the last stop I had was Unitarian Universalist, a UU church. That was the last stop. But by that time, I didn't believe, but I wanted to be a part of some community, and that's why I attended. But they also had a justice council, and it seemed like a great spot. But then what happened was they didn't have like a set minister, so we ended up having different people from the congregation and from outside giving talks about science and ethics and humanism and things of that nature. And I thought those talks were pretty interesting. But then they got a minister, and the minister seemed Christian, and I was like, well, this isn't the place for me. So what I deduced from attending a few different UU churches was that each UU seems to be different. The leadership is different and the congregation's different. And although they do embrace non-believers, the direction of the service usually depends upon the leader of that church, that minister. So I found that even that wasn't for me.
So I've written some things here about which I know I have some more questions, but we should probably grill Nathan, naturalist Nathan, for a while.
Yeah.
So what's your loss of faith story and history?
Well, I started out in the church and didn't really have any problem with it. So
the church, there's no one church.
Okay. I'll say Southern Baptist. I mean, but when you're a small child, the church is the only one you know. Uh-huh. So all my parents and grandparents and they were all Southern Baptists. So my mom taught in Sunday school. My grandmother was the card lady at her church, where she sent out
card lady?
Yeah, sent out cards to everybody. So birthday, anything to her members. And she also taught her Sunday school class. Mm-hmm. And then I had we partook in all the holidays like Christmas and Easter and
New Year's Eve.
New Year's, well, yeah, it's not a religious holiday, but we all got the family together, and it was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Christmas Eve. Let's see. And I really enjoyed all that. And the way it was presented to me, it made a lot of sense. You know, as a child, you pray about things, and then maybe stuff works out, and you notice, and you say, "Oh, well, it worked out." So it must have been the praying helped, right?
Did they ever coach you to make sort of small prayers that might come true rather than big prayers, like, I want my, great grandparents to come back to life, or something that would never happen? Did they, in a sense, head that off?
No, they didn't necessarily do that, but they did focus on thankfulness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
in other words, once something has happened, now you can be thankful for it, almost like a prayer. Yeah.
Right.
And it's already happened, so now there's no doubt.
and it's okay to be thankful and grateful. But once they start tagging it on as, well, be thankful this because of God, right? Then somewhere in your brain you're like, oh, well, look how blessed we are. You know, you don't say, oh, well, necessarily, look how privileged we are, or look how lucky we were, or fortunate, or that my great-grandfather owned a farm, and then that helped my grandfather become a doctor. And then he built his own house in this little town in Arkansas and became one of the first doctors that went around and even did house calls for $5, right? So they worked their way up. He said the first medication that was really mattered was penicillin, right? Yeah. And that was a big deal. So, but now, of course, a large part of healthcare is pharmacy. It's a huge deal, deal. So anyway, he went through all of this as they built hospitals, and he was kind of privileged, I would say.
So, were they attributing a lot of that to God's working on their behalf, or did they mention that they worked at it?
Yeah, they thank God all the time. Wednesdays, Sundays, mornings, Sunday night. They sang about it. They had
first service, second
books
service.
about it. But it was something to do, right? Mm-hmm. Kept us out of trouble, and we had friends. It was like an extended family at the church.
Right.
So it's not
you become immersed in that experience.
I wouldn't want to give that up.
Yeah.
Jen, you mentioned choir as well when you were speaking your history.
I didn't sing. My dad did. So, and he sang on 3 different choirs at one time, at one point. So we went to different churches to go to choir rehearsal sometimes.
So would there, though, have been occasions where the whole congregation maybe sang along? You know,
sometimes.
From time to time participated?
From time to time, yeah. And like at least 1 or 2 songs throughout the services. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So therefore, approximately weekly, there was at least a little singing on your part.
No, I didn't sing along.
Oh.
No.
Sorry, the congregation was singing, but you weren't.
No, I was laughing at people.
Yeah, all right, but most of the congregation was singing.
Yeah.
Now, Nathan was singing, every week, typically?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the congregation did sing, and at one point I even was in the choir, and that was kind of fun, right?
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So,
show us a little something.
Are there songs that you remember fondly, even if you now know that they're, all right, that was nonsense, but I still like the song? Such as?
They had, my father would sing this song at funerals, Walk Around Heaven All Day. And that was a pretty cool song.
Okay, I've never heard of that.
Yeah. And there was there was like, what was it? Jesus Can Work It Out, and a lot of there's a lot of other fun songs. The music was pretty lively and fun, actually. I mean,
which kind of church would have been doing Walk Around Heaven All Day? Was that Jehovah's Witness or one of the others that you mentioned?
Well, all the Jehovah's Witness songs were like more monotone, and they were just really dry, and everybody had to sing on the same key, controlled on the same key. But the Southern Baptist Church, people are jumping on the seats, running up and down the aisles, getting this so-called Holy Spirit and shaking. And
clarifying question: Walk Around Heaven All Day is a Baptist song?
I don't know if it is. It was sang in a Baptist church, yes. But my father would mostly sing that at funerals. So, yeah.
Now, I think my Southern Baptist experience was different.
Oh, okay.
And it was not as wild. We did not
Jump
really
on the chair, jump in the pews, run up and down the
Now,
aisles.
they did, it was a lot of old people songs sometimes, and a lot of times we skipped the third verse because there's a whole lot of singing for everybody. So there's second, and then we just skipped to the fourth, and we're like, okay, now you can sit down. But we did have choirs in robes, and we had this little
The little
collar, yeah, and they did kind of get up and do.
You said collars and you
presentations.
understood one another, but I don't know what you mean.
Ours they had yellow kind of shiny collar things that went over
It's
the robe.
like a collar or a sash. Like they look like you're graduating from school, except the robes were like all different colors. Like people had some each week they decided which color they were going to wear. Sometimes it was a red robe, sometimes it was blue, whatever, with a yellow sash or yellow
were
collar.
these robes on hangers in the church, or they were your own property? Oh, okay. So you weren't expected to invest
In the church.
in
They belonged to the church.
your own wardrobe of multicolors. Okay.
Right, and sometimes you took them home they wanted you to dry clean them and keep them nice and things. Or the choir simply showed up, okay, today we're wearing black and white, so the women showed up in black skirts and white shirts, and men black pants and white shirts, things like that, or red or whatever. And I had this really cool cousin who died a few years back, named Sue, and she would match up her makeup with whatever the colors were. One day, the color was green. She had green lipstick, green eyeshadow. And the things that I would laugh about back then, I think are cool now, because I totally would wear green lipstick now.
Well, yeah, mine was a little different. So I should talk about how I lost my faith, though.
Yes.
I'd like to hear a song you can remember.
No.
Was fond of?
No, but I was curious. So sometimes you do get your heart pumping and you're breathing, and it does feel kind of like the Holy Spirit's coming over you, right? So did you ever feel that way?
No.
No, but you weren't singing either, right? You were kind of laughing instead.
I mean, once in a while I'd say a couple words here and there and just kind of laugh and joke with people and just see how people were acting. And
well, I think
my brothers and I would be laughing.
More to do with oxygen
People give
levels.
us the mean look like, you need to chill out.
Well, I tried to participate. So
We clap.
But a lot of times I was like, I'm not really feeling it. And I look around and other people are like, oh, really getting into it. And it's like, I don't know. Maybe they're
But did
just
they
kinda
really flip out like the
pretending,
people I knew? Like they were like shaking in the pews and jumping up and down
No,
and
it's
foaming
crazy.
at the mouth. And
The craziest it got was sometimes people would go down to there were steps at the bottom around the podium, and people would kneel at the podium and pray really hard, and that was as exciting as it got, really.
So Nathan,
in
why
my
would you
church.
leave such an entertaining place?
Oh my gosh. Well, I started having doubts. Okay. So there were things that didn't line up, right?
All right, doubts.
Doubts, right. I mean, so as a kid, I wanted to learn things. This was my goal, is learn everything I can. And they promised, heaven will be really amazing. And one of the things I wanted was, when I go to heaven, I'll ask God all these questions I have because I was curious, and I'll find out everything I want to know. And then, I don't know what happens after that. It's probably pretty boring because, all my questions are answered. You just sit around playing harps. I don't know. So, since I wasn't in heaven, I had to keep searching for answers to my questions. I had a world book. I read through that. Dictionaries, I read through that. Eventually we got the internet, and there's a wealth of knowledge online. But even in regular school, we learn about biology and the evolutionary tree, and we learn about, all the fossils. Some of that was in the books I read. And it all makes sense that the world is very old. do we need to do a break soon?
Kind of, but you're on a roll.
Oh, right. Yeah, the world is very old, and no one really questioned that. It's interesting because some churches, they teach young earth creationism in the Baptist churches, but in ours in particular, we had doctors and other people who even kicked out a pastor, from what I understand, who was
Wow.
trying to teach young earth creationism. And they said, no, it's not 6,000 years old.
No?
Right. No, it's like, billions.
It's 2,000 years old. No, it's 2018 years old.
No, they're okay with evolution. So what happened was I kept wondering and thinking about what, things that don't fit. Noah's Ark doesn't really make any sense wherever the water go. And it's kind of cruel to just, if you're omnipowerful and you make a mistake, right? Because that was God's mistake. You could just start over, like snap your fingers,
Like
do it right the
Thanos?
first time. Yeah.
Infinity Gauntlet.
I met grandmothers that had Alzheimer's.
Okay.
And that one really got to me because their mind goes. And you would think if they had a spirit, like a Holy Spirit back there pulling strings, they would talk, they would still be able to communicate as if they were really there. Like even if you could do Morse code through your body that's falling apart. But that's not what was happening. They were really losing their mind. I mean, this one grandmother, could only laugh at farts and could barely eat if you fed her. And it's like, when she gets to heaven, her memories are not going to be there anymore because they were in her brain. I understand how brains work, neurons, and they're kind of gone. I mean, unless you can go back in time and recover them, and then it still wouldn't be the same. Right, that's what I was thinking. And then I started thinking, well, why do we have an Old Testament and a New Testament? Like, if he did it right the first time and he was perfect, seems like the First Testament would be good enough. I mean, so he says, oh, whoops, we need a revision. Here's a New Testament. That doesn't really make sense. And for a long time, I did not ask anyone. I sat there and listened to the pastor talk, and I thought about, should I ask him, or would it turn him into an atheist? Should I ask him, or would it destroy our church? So I didn't ask.
No.
I'm sure they had an apologist answer, right? But I didn't ask. And things snowballed from there. The actual straw on the camel's back, though, was Sarah Palin, because she was supposed to be religious, and she's not smart. And I thought all the people in the church I knew were smart, pretty much.
Okay.
But it's like, obviously, God is not really going to let somebody say, hey, I got God on my side, and be Sarah Palin. And
So that undercut the credibility of a good deity who would let the undesirables sort of wrap
undesirable.
themselves
That's
around.
the real problem. Yeah. So I was basically a deist at the time because I had narrowed down most of the Bible to.
We should assume that there's at least one viewer out there who doesn't know what a deist is.
A deist. Oh, a deist.
So most viewers maybe know what Christians are. What's a deist?
A deist is someone who thinks there might be a prime mover that created everything and then just let the world run as if it was evolving.
And doesn't intervene.
Does not really intervene. He's not a personal God. He doesn't talk to us. The stories about Jesus might be, are just myths, probably. And now, an interesting thing I also learned, things like Jefferson Bible was written by Thomas Jefferson, or actually he cut out the parts that Jesus talks out of the Bible, pasted it into his own version, and called it The Life and Times of Jesus Christ as a moral lesson. But it doesn't have any miracles in it. That's what a deist would do.
Yeah, all righty. Well, we're about 15 minutes left in the show, and we should do the mid-program break. So if we jump to our notes here.
Okay. In case you're just tuning in, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. Freethought Forum is funded jointly by them and by individual contributions.
We have moved. This is our new regular time every Wednesday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Knoxville Community Access Television channels 6, 12, 99, or 193, depending on your local cable network. Tell your out-of-town friends to see us streaming online at ctvknox.org.
Today's show is live. It's June 6th, 2018, and you can call the number on our screen and go ahead and do so while we take a short break. Please watch these informative videos about our sponsors.
If you live in or around the Knoxville area and are questioning your religious beliefs or simply believe in one less God than everyone else, well, you're not alone. The Atheist Society of Knoxville is a fun and friendly group of people just like you that meets twice a week at a bar or restaurant. We meet every Tuesday night following the show. You'll find our group either inside or on the patio. Look for Richard Dawkins' silver-jacketed book, The God Delusion, standing upright on the table. But if you plan to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't. We all question what we believe at one point in our lives. If this is the time for you, come join us for food, drink, conversation, and fun. Do you find stories of talking snakes laughable? Do you prefer the scientific method over supernatural beliefs? Are you concerned about religious leaders and organizations imposing their values and rules on your body, your family, and the rest of our society? Well, take comfort in the fact that you're not alone. The Rationalists of East Tennessee meets for fellowship and provides a forum for people who support skeptical thinking and rational discussion of these and other issues. To find out more information or to find out about our next meeting, visit us on the web at www.rationalist.org.
All right, and we're back, and we've been told we have a call. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Do you have a comment or a question? Oh, and can we get a name?
Yeah, it's Charles from Central Illinois, and I have an update, or actually a correction.
Yes, Charles.
That former four-star general, Jerry Boykin, is the one that made the comment about the American legal system being based entirely on the Bible, not David Barton.
All right, you're correcting a misstatement, and you said, what was that four-star general's name?
Jerry Boykin, Boykin.
All right, okay. Well, thank you for the correction. We need to finish up our mid-program activities here and carry on with the rest of the show. Let's say thanks again, Charles.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye then.
Thanks.
So, all right, what do we have here? Who's first?
Who's on first?
Yeah, the call broke my chain of thought.
The Atheist Society of Knoxville, or ASK, meets one or more times a week. We have evening meetups for fun, food, drink, and conversation. Find us online at knoxvilleatheist.org. The purpose of ASK is to supply a venue for community, camaraderie, and outreach to atheists, agnostics, freethinkers, and other like-minded persons in the East Tennessee area. Next Tuesday's meeting is at 5:30 p.m. And as of March 6th, we've moved to Black Horse Pike and Brewery at 4429 Kingston Pike, Knoxville, in the Western Shopping Center.
Alrighty, and I think maybe this is both groups. They're planning on participating in the upcoming Pride event. I'll confess, I don't know the date of that, but that must be coming up soon now, right?
Yes. It's sometime this month. I have to check the date.
Yeah, I'll confess, my bad for not knowing the exact date on that. Nathan.
So they do have tomorrow night a Bible trivia night. It's at 6:30 p.m. at the Fort Sanders Yacht Club.
Okay. Now, and when you say they, this is something ASK members are doing, or RAT members?
Just a generic they.
Okay. They're people from both groups, no doubt.
It is. It's an ask group mostly, and they're raising funds for what is it? Ending Hunger event. That's an outreach program.
Sounds great.
All righty, and they're going to do Bible trivia because, of course, many atheists are well read in the Bible.
Correct.
So the June skeptic's book of the month is Rebalancing Society, Renewal Beyond Left, Right, and Center. So that's June 10th. That's a Sunday. And the meeting is at Books A Million. It's the Books A Million that's right near Walker Springs exit. And that's, if I didn't say already, it's from 2 to 4. You need not have read the book to attend, but of course it helps, and you still have a few days to try and read one if you don't. Did we have anything more here?
Go to www.rationalist.org for program and meeting times.
There we go.
Okay.
All righty. So we've got about 10 minutes left. We sure could use some more callers. If
You got a call?
but we have a call.
All right.
Jen, you're going to ask talk to the caller.
Okay. Hi, caller. Please give us your name or nickname.
Caller works pretty good.
All right. And your question, caller?
Yeah, no, it wasn't a question. It was something I wanted to share with you about. You were telling your flood stories, and there was an idea, an observation that I made that I thought was pretty interesting. The reason God flooded the earth was for what reason?
It was because mankind was full of evil and violence, wickedness
There
and
you
violence.
go. There you go. Okay, and today, mankind is still full of evil and violence. Well, evil like liberals and Nickelback and people like that. Still, there's a lot of evil in the world. There's Kim Jong-un and other maniacal world leaders. So, in effect, this godly move, this in all of his worldly wisdom, his otherworldly wisdom, to destroy the world in order to destroy evil, was simply an exercise in futility. So what we have here is a God that's trying to correct some sort of thing that he considers a problem and was utterly impotent at it. I mean, he just did not fix the problem. And this is the one that so many religions are claiming to be infallible and all-knowing.
So, caller, I can't help but think that, let me pretend to be Yahweh's advocate here and say, oh, maybe he wasn't trying to fix it. He just was interested in punishing. He did punish, did he not?
I don't think so. I mean, if
Not
you
babies,
consider
not
if you
animals?
consider death to be a punishment, I don't think death is a punishment.
Yeah, they
You want to punish
had,
somebody, blow their kneecaps off.
They had, moments of terror as they were drowning. That's Yahweh's work.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of guys that have moments of terror when he's waiting for his girlfriend's pregnancy test. But I don't think that moments of terror would be considered a punishment either.
All right.
Maybe pain might be considered a punishment, but death is only the price that we pay for being alive. Death is not a punishment.
All righty. So you're of the opinion that he was.
Death is a punishment to your friends and your relatives and your spouses, but it's no death. It's no punishment to the person that's experiencing it.
So in fact, only Noah and his family were punished because their friends died. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess you could say that. I wouldn't go that far. I mean, when you're, I find that most of the people that feel themselves to be of a godly nature, they don't usually find any sort of real anxiety about other people being punished by the hand of God. As a matter of fact, sometimes it seems like it titillates them. And, sort of a condescending type attitude when, there but for the grace of God, I don't go.
Yeah, there's I forget the name of it, but he wrote a book called The Devil's Dictionary, and one of it refers to believers saying that when the misfortunes in life are a punishment visited on others, but for them, when it happens, it's only a test.
Okay.
All right. Well, caller, we've got only a few minutes left. We should ask, do you watch often?
you didn't ask Charles that. Why am I getting the interrogation?
Yeah, he identifies himself. All right. Well, so we were just being polite. We can thank you for calling.
Okay.
And say, of course, call again or visit us sometime.
Okay.
All righty. Goodbye then.
Bye-bye.
All right. Viewers, we got 5 minutes left. We got time for one real quick call if you want to hurry us up. There was things you guys were talking about, and I thought, I got some more questions to ask. And I've kind of lost a little of them now. So, were there more things you either wanted to say? Maybe I should say this. So, you both grew out of faith. And what were the consequences on that? How did it affect your relation with friends and family?
Well, I was always the oddball in the family and the black sheep, so to speak, already. And it was just one more thing to add to the list. So I can't really say that I've had issues where I've lost any true friend or family member behind not believing. So, I've had a few interactions that were uncomfortable with family and friends where they try to continue to push their agenda or send me Facebook posts that have God stuff in it, and they just it's more been an issue of not respecting my ability and my right to think as I do, just as I respect them.
All righty. Nathan, couple minutes.
Oh, yeah. Well, I had a little trouble because I didn't want to talk to people and make them sad, right? Because they enjoy thinking they'll live forever and believing that they're like minor deities, that they have an eternal soul, that will just, this is all very temporary, and then infinite afterlife will be nice. And if I take that away, that's a lot to lose. But it also motivated me to move to a whole nother state, so I wasn't really close to them. And in a situation where I would discuss that, I thought, but I stayed on Facebook, and we still discussed things, and it was really uncomfortable. And still haven't worked out everything, so.
I found that when the fact that I don't believe that there's a heaven and that I'm going to see my loved ones again when they die. There's times where I feel like as a non-believer, I feel pain more deeply than the average person because there isn't an after to look forward to, and that I'll see the people again. So. I think I've found that through the years I've mourned losses a lot harder than some of my believer friends.
And so I've written the following thing about, is it our duty to bring into the marketplace of ideas free thought? And something Nathan said, I guess I want to comment on, and that is that, you didn't necessarily want to go and rock some people's boat or worldview. And I'm like that, especially with more elderly people. It's like,
let them have it.
Let them have it, yeah, because, it may be a little bit more uncomfortable to lose that and realize mortality is going to be it. And so I will pull my punches, so to speak, then. Younger people, I think, though, they really should have the opportunity to live a life that is not myth-based.
Following the golden rule, I would have wanted to be told sooner, to be honest. So,
yeah. All right.
As a younger child.
Well, we should probably start finding the end of program stuff.
Well, it's time to start wrapping things up. Get out your pen and paper. This has been Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee.
You can give us feedback by email at freethoughtforum@yahoo.com. That's FREETHOUGHT forum@yahoo.com, like on the screen.
And you and your friends can see the show on most Wednesday evenings from 6:30 to 7:30 Eastern Time on this Knoxville station. Tell your out-of-town friends to see us on ctvknox.org.
We'd like to thank Sam, Riv, Faithless for technical support, the staff at CTV Knox, and all of our viewers and callers.
And nuns, those who identify with no religion, are the fastest growing religious group in America. Right here in East Tennessee, the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East